Hello, my name is Dick Shaw. Welcome to my devotional this morning. Have you ever faced a major loss in your life? Perhaps it was the death of a close family member. Maybe it was some kind of financial loss or a health issue. I know I had one of those a few years ago. I was diagnosed with leukemia, and at the time it was quite unsettling. But I went through some chemotherapy, and now I'm on a medication that's controlling my blood count numbers, and I'm doing very well. But it always kind of weighs on me a little bit. It's a little bit in the back of my mind continually because I don't know what the long-term effects of the medication is or how long it's going to work. But I just try to stay focused on my eternal future and not worry about that. I go about my daily business as I normally would. But we face all kinds of losses, and I want to talk about an individual in the Bible that faced many of these losses. You might know who I'm talking about. His name was Job. And my devotion today is based on a little article that I read recently by Alan Webster. And I want to look at 5 things that Job lost, 5 things that he gained, and 5 things that he learned. And I encourage you to read the book of Job. That's where the message comes from today. And I'm not going to read every scripture that pertains to the message, but I'll read a few of them. But let's first of all consider those 5 things that he lost. First, he lost all of his possessions and his livelihood, some by thieves and some by a fire. Then all 10 children of his died. While he was still speaking, another also came to him and said, now this was a servant of his that brought this news to him. He said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young men, and they all are dead. Now, I don't know about you, but losing a child is probably the most devastating thing that could happen to a person, much less losing all of your children at the same time. But that's what happened to Job. Then Job lost his health. Then he lost the support of his wife. Chapter 2, verse 9, it says, then his wife said to him, do you still hold your integrity? Curse God and die. Then he lost the prestige that he had in the community. He was quite a wealthy man and well known and well respected, and his friends turned on him. They blamed him for these bad things that happened to him. But Job gained 5 things as well. Let's take a look at those. For each type of suffering that he went through, God offered blessing. The loss of his possessions and his livelihood helped Job to recognize his dependence upon God. He couldn't depend on himself. He had to depend on God. The death of his children gave him a greater desire for heaven. Job 19:25 through 27 says, for I know that my Redeemer lives, and he shall stand at last on the earth, and after my skin is destroyed, I know that in my flesh I shall see God. Job had hope for heaven, where he would be in the presence of God. The loss of his health gave him greater spiritual maturity. The loss of support from his wife and some of those that loved him, or his loved ones, gave him an appreciation for God's never-wavering support. And the loss of his standing in the community in the respect of his peers gave him an opportunity to glorify God. Job 23 verse 10 says, but he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I shall come forth as gold. When we may not understand all that happens to us, but we can know in the long run that it is for our good. Romans 8:28 tells us that all things work together for good to those who love God and to those who are called according to his purpose. Now let's look at 5 things that Job learned. He learned that God is in control and that's enough. Job said, I know that you can do everything. He's talking to God here. I know that you can do everything and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you. Job learned humility. Job learned forgiveness of those who hurt him. He learned that God is gracious, and he learned that he could trust God even though he may not understand all of it. But Job's trust wavered, much like ours does sometimes when we face loss of various kinds. We just don't know why it's happening. And Job mourned, he cried, he protested, he questioned. He even cursed the day that he was born. Job begged God for answers. He desperately wanted to know why these things were happening. Many times when we face trials, we want to know the same thing. And God answered him, but not as Job expected. God's answer was a little unsettling. Instead of a direct response, God gave Job the longest speech he has recorded in the entire Bible, chapters 38 through 41. He asked Job questions like, where were you when I established the heavens and the earth? Can you place the stars in the sky? Do you give the horse his strength, or clothe his neck with a flowing mane? Will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Well, after getting this theology lesson from God, Job broke down and said, I have uttered what I did not understand. Ultimately, the only answer God gave Job was God himself. And this is the first rule of the Christian life, one we need to always remember, that he is God and we are not. I don't know what kind of trial you may be facing today, but where is your source of strength? Are you trying to solve these problems on your own? Are you just willing to give up and not care anymore? Whatever you're going through, I hope you will remember that there is someone in charge in this world, and that's where we need to put our trust. That's the one that we need to lean on. We need to always keep these things in our mind, that he is God and we are not. I hope you have a blessed day.
If you would like more information, or if you'd like to participate in our Bible studies and worship services, we would love to have you come join us at the Northeast Church of Christ in Albuquerque, New Mexico.